All right, good morning. It's Rabbi Kolakowski, the Kublan Saruf, talking about more political things. I was thinking, I saw yesterday, or a few days ago, something on Twitter, a whole list of different rabbis who spoke in a particular camp in upstate New York, not too far from me, and I was like, if I just didn't talk about such controversial things, maybe I'd be invited to speak. But I can't be silent. We gotta talk about these issues. So 2 nights ago, I really wanted to talk about this yesterday. I just didn't have a chance to make a video yesterday. But 2 nights ago, I didn't watch either of the Democrat debates, but I did follow a little bit on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, just some of what people commenting about this and some clips here and there. Because I don't have time for that. But we still going here. So Pete Buttigieg, the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, he said, essentially, he quoted a verse in Proverbs. I know it in Hebrew well. It's Loeg l'rosh charef eseim. Someone who mocks a pauper blasphemes his maker. And so Mayor Pete said that basically the way his exegesis of that verse in Proverbs is that if you oppose raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour, you're a blasphemer, you're not a good Christian. Because you're mocking the poor and thus blaspheming your creator, and you're not a good Christian. And I guess he would extend that to me, to us Jews as well, because it's in our books, that's our, it's ours that we've shared with the world, that the Christian church isn't shared through the world, but it's ours, Book of Proverbs. But that's not what it means. How do you get from point A to point B here? I really don't get it. I mean, first of all, just the stupidity of raising the minimum wage. When you artificially do that, really the whole idea of a minimum wage it's just stupid. I mean, we saw what happened with Bernie Sanders. He was paying some of his workers $12 an hour. And they were like, what's this? Why aren't I getting $15 an hour? So he raised it to $15 an hour, and they went from working 60 hours a week to 35 hours a week. They're making less now, but they're making more per hour, right? And I guess it means, they have a time to get another part-time job on a Sunday, although that's not so easy to do, to be able to make your schedule the way you want to make it, but that's just how it is. So you realize the stupidity of, he had a lesson in economics right there for him, right in front of him. But that's not, and the other thing, so either if you raise the minimum wage, either people are going to work less hours or just lose their jobs altogether. And that doesn't help the poor, And quite often, if they're working less hours, they're probably going to be making a total of less than they were making with the more hours. I mean, this is the same thing that happened with, the Obamacare, saying, well, if you have a certain amount of employees and they're working a certain number of hours, you have to give them insurance. So what did the jobs do? Either laid off employees, so they have less employees, or gave them less hours so they didn't have to give them insurance. It's the same type of nonsense. The other thing more and more companies are doing are hiring independent contractors so they don't have to give them anything. And everybody's pretty much self-employed, working for other people, but they're self-employed. And a lot of government programs especially are doing that. Chaplaincy, things like that, instead of someone, so you might be making even $80 an hour, but you're only working 3 hours a week, so you can pay your rent in 3 hours a week if you live somewhere where rent is pretty cheap. But it's right in the middle of the week. You can't really get another job. And that's what I went through, And finally, I was able to, now things are getting better, and I have a real job now, But this verse, it's not what it means. I don't know. You want to interpret it like that? All right, go ahead. That's how you want to interpret it. Again, I'm not going to say that the Jewish interpretation is what King Solomon necessarily intended, perhaps when he wrote it, but the main time we hear this verse, it's a very parochial type of thing. Is we wear fringed garments, right? Tzitzis. It's in the book of Numbers, chapter 15, where it talks about the fringed garments and the so we say if you're in a cemetery, you don't wear the fringed garments, the fringes hanging out, you tuck them into your pants or something like that, right? Why? Because you're making fun of poor people. These poor dead people cannot do the mitzvah of wearing tzitzis, and you're mocking them by having your tzitzis out in the cemetery. That's how we interpret it, So, the same thing, you're wearing tefillin in the cemetery. They can't wear tefillin, so you're making fun of them. Yeah, obviously, I understand, that's not how everyone's gonna interpret it, but again, I think it's a better interpretation than saying that it's specifically talking about 15-hour a week, $15 an hour minimum wage. That somehow that's what King Solomon was talking about, rather than mocking the dead. But that's just by performing, by openly doing religious things in front of dead people. Whereas they say, you could still do the mitzvah, but tuck the tzitzis in. You could even have the arm tefillin under a sleeve, So, the phylacteries. So that's just ridiculous nonsense. I know a lot of people, apparently they're saying the first night the winner of the debate was Marianne Williamson. And I really hope she's the nominee. That would just be awesome. That would just be the craziest thing. It would be wonderful, actually. I mean, she is, a lot of people are saying, she is like who Donald Trump was in 2015. That's Marianne Williamson. Maybe she's not as famous as Donald Trump, but she's, she is well known among those who she's well known by. And I kind of hope she comes up from out of nowhere. Now, I never heard of her before this, but she just reminds me of like when I was a kid and I would hang out like in the library or in the community center and do all these arts and crafts type things and go to these types of programs, and like I was just like, these were the types of women who were influential in my life as a child. Actually, I was listening to Glenn Beck had an hour and a half long interview with a guy from YouTube who he calls himself Mr. Reagan, and both of them said, and I feel the same way, that like we have like the guy, this Mr. Reagan, and he said, he feels like he has very much like a liberal or even left-wing soul, but just he came to the realization of just common sense, and then Glenn Beck said, that kind of describes him, and then that's how I feel also, essentially, like, yeah, I'm, more of the artist type of person. That was my type, my approach. I don't really fit in with the typical, right-wing conservative on any platform, neither the rural right-wing conservative nor the urban or suburban right-wing conservative. I feel like a more of a kindred spirit with someone like Glenn Beck. I'm not, and Rush Limbaugh to a certain extent is like that as well. Ben Shapiro definitely isn't. I mean, a lot of people say Jordan Peterson is along those lines, which, that I can see. I'm not that involved with a lot of his things. I don't watch him as much, but, I'm not the calculated mathematician, lawyer type like a Ben Shapiro. That's not my type of thing. I'm much more the artist, the Glenn Beck type. I like to, I really like Bishop Fulton Sheen. Even though he's been gone from this world for about 40 years, I'm a big fan of his approach, and like that type of, that type of approach is just very appealing to me. So, and the thing is, I don't like a lot of the things Marianne Williamson is saying, but I like the idea of someone like that, who is, a very wavy, gravy, spiritual type of thing, but I've outgrown it to a certain extent, I've matured, I guess, but there's certain places where, like, you have to find that balance, and it's, but certain things are just getting weird in America today. They're just gone so far gone. But, especially the types of things that go on in libraries now. I mean, if you know about it, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't know about it, It's not worth it to even mention because it's just so disgusting. But like, somehow what is considered appropriate for children programs and libraries is just off the wall. Absolutely crazy, off the wall. Dangerous type of stuff, and I think a lot of it is like the communist infiltration, and that's the interesting thing, is that like you don't have this spirituality. I mean, communism certainly was a religion, but it didn't have any spirituality. I mean, the Nazis, to a certain extent, had more of the occult, spiritual type of things, and brought it to very dark, negative, evil places. The communists were just totally separate from that world. And yet so many people from a lot of these spiritual type of movements are attracted to socialism, Marxism. But it's like they don't really recognize, well, what are they actually involved with here? Because they don't know what it's really all about, and they don't realize how it's going to destroy them. I mean, to say that reparations are a debt that's owed, I mean, that was the big thing Marianne Williamson said. That was, I found to be distasteful. I mean, the bloodiest war that America ever had, I think that paid the debt. Absolutely there was a debt that was owed, and the Civil War paid that debt. And what's going on right now is not as much about slavery itself per se, but the fact that the Democrats still haven't freed their slaves. And so, and the Republicans are still in the process of freeing slaves. That they dare say that Donald Trump is racist for pointing out how bad things are under Democrat rule in Baltimore. There's nothing racist about that. It's just the opposite. He wants to rescue them from this. And the Democrats see they're going to lose the black vote if they don't just call Donald Trump a racist. And that's been their modus operandi for when they're the real racists. And yet they want to they called Bush a racist, they called Donald Trump a racist. There's nothing racist about these people. These are the party of thinking. Well, I wasted enough time. I should be learning Torah. Thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment. We'll see you later.